right, this is Coach MJ. We're back again on the other Mission Impossible. Before I get going here today, I want you to think about all of the great speakers you've ever heard in the United States of America. And I'm talking people like Dennis Waitley, Norman Vincent Peale, going back that far. And how about Zig Ziglar, one of the champions, or his brother Judge? Well, today I have someone here who was responsible for putting all those people on stage, who was seen by millions of people who've actually enjoyed their teachings and their message. His name is John Ziglar. He brings the legacy to the table today. Good morning, John. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Coach. How are you doing today?
Well, excellent. In fact, I'm saying I'm going to be blessed beyond belief. That's what I would say. I'm trying to get into the Ziglar mood here. I just love the guy, the swang that you guys have. Just terrific. John, could you tell us and our audience here today, because some of the people who don't really know you because of the generational gap that I have and you together, we have. I know for sure I shared so many moments, so many mornings with the people that you were introducing as speakers, because I learned so much from those speakers. I learned so much wisdom from them, and I would drink it as like when someone would drink coffee every morning. And you had something that was like, I think it was Masters of Success. Was that you?
Yes.
Yeah. Man, let me tell you what, that was a university on wheels. And if anybody remembers that, you definitely want to tune into this, because we are going to definitely go down the road here with John Ziglar, the one and only nephew of Zig Ziglar, son of Judge Ziglar. John, can you tell us how did you get started on this? I know your dad was involved, but can you give us a little bit of an insight here?
Sure. Listen, when I first started into the sales and motivation industry, I started with my dad, and we were doing small seminars, and we would have, quite honestly, it was mostly sales training, because that was my dad's specialty. Dad wrote a book, Timid Salesmen Have Skinny Kids. And I'm telling you, it was phenomenal. And so we would sell tickets to these seminars. He would come, and the bottom line is it was great. But we had to sell a few tickets for a big price. And then what we would do then is we figured out later on, if I reduced the price, I could get more people. And so we reduced the price from $500 down to $100. And instead of having 100 people in the room, we had 500 people in the room. And it worked very well. Then what happened? We said, what if we reduce it down to $30? And we reduced it to $30. And we started an entire industry where we had thousands and thousands of people over an 18-year stretch. I put 1.6 million people in seats, and we introduced a philosophy of attitude control, motivation, inspiration, and integrity to the American people. And I ended up bringing the guys like you said, the Norman Vincent Peales, the Dennis Waitleys, the Brian Tracys, the Nito Cubanes, and all of them. And that's where the Masters of Success came from. That was the tape series that I took the very best from each one of those 24 speakers, put it into a tape series, and we sold 2.6 million of them around the world.
I was certainly one customer, that was for sure. And I treasured that whole collection. It was really, truly what I said, the university on wheels. Back in the day, for those of you listening that don't understand what I'm talking about, there used to be something called a cassette tape. You could put that in your car and listen to it. That was before the digital world came, before Tony Robbins, before all these other things. These are the pioneers. John himself is actually the pioneer of personal development here in the United States. What a wonderful thing. You must have some terrific memories about some of the wonderful things that you did, and also some of the funny things that happened along the way. How about, let me ask you this. What about you? We were having something pre-show, something about Zig Ziglar, because I remember he had so many great talks, but one of them was about priming the pump. You got to put something in to get something out. And I was mentioning that to you off the microphone, and you told me that you knew something about that pump. What was that?
Well, I got that pump.
You got it. It's a museum relic.
I chrome plated that pump, and I have it here in my office.
Wow.
And what happens with those pumps is they're made out of cast iron. And one of the funny things that happens is one day we're up on stage and we hadn't learned this yet, but Zig gets kind of motivated when he tells that story. And he's jumping up and down and pumping and pumping and pumping. When he hit that thing one time, a handle broke off. And so now the story takes a different turn. But the bottom line is, so what we did is we learned how to weld a piece of steel inside of that handle so that wouldn't happen again. Then we chrome plated it, and now all of a sudden we've got a modified chrome plated pump.
Well,
but the story is phenomenal. And it's quite honestly, in Zig's first book, the first book he ever wrote was called Biscuits, Fleas, and Pump Handles. And it's about the three stories that Zig Ziglar started his career on. And the bottom line is, in my opinion, they're probably still the best.
Absolutely. As soon as you just said that, I remember them succinctly. Biscuits is don't get cooked in the squat. Fleas were don't think that you're stuck in a jar. Oh my gosh, you are absolutely right. Phenomenal stories.
Well, anyway, so I tell you a funny thing that happened to me. I'm kind of an open book. And so with my speakers, I never really memorized their bio or anything. I introduced them because I knew them and I had dinner with them. I knew who they were, and I introduced them on a personal level. And what I would do is I would talk with these guys. And one day in Jacksonville, Florida, I'll never forget it. I was in there and I told Zig a joke. And he laughed. He thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so I introduced Zig. Zig gets up on stage. Well, I have heard his presentation, I don't know how many times. I could give it to you. But the bottom line is, I didn't listen to him on stage when he was up there. I introduced him, and then I left and I went off. And then I get ready to introduce the next speaker. The next speaker, I think, was Dr. Peel. And before it did, I get up and I tell this joke. And here's the joke. What do you feed your dog? Well, I feed my dog turnip greens. Turnip greens? I don't think my dog would eat turnip greens. He says, mine didn't either the first 30 days. and everybody went, you gotta be kidding. Well, so I get up and I tell that joke introducing Dr. Peel, and everybody boos me because Zig told the joke the hour before. And so I said, well, I learned something here today. If I hear a good joke, I'm not going to tell anybody until I get on stage because it doesn't work. But the bottom line is that kind of stuff happens all the time. And I listened to these speakers, all of them, and I did a lot of research, and I found out that stories and jokes actually work on a 20-year cycle. And the bottom line is, you go back 20 years and you can hear those jokes, and you go back 40 years and hear them again. It's unbelievable. And it's an interesting thing to see because in life, truth and honesty and honorable, none of that changes. All of that stays the same. What changes in our world is technology. What changes in our world is our attention span. What changes in our world is how do we communicate with people? I talked with my granddaughter the other day, just for kicks. And I asked her, I said, Kinsley, why do you always text somebody? And she says, oh, Papa, she says, if I talk to them in person, I have to answer questions immediately. If I text them, I have time to think about what I'm going to say. And that's what's going on in our world today. And that's what's coming up in our world. And we have to know it, recognize it, and deal with it because it's becoming very widespread.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, you're absolutely right. I want to just, first of all, put a big envelope on this amazing legacy of a background that you have to be on stage, to put those giants on stage that we would call them, who really had a profound influence on so many successful people today. I can guarantee you, people in my audience who are listening to this show can tell me for sure, oh yeah, I read that book, See You at the Top, or I heard that story. And going back to what you just said, John, it's the stories that resonate with people. It's the stories inside songs that have been transmitted over the centuries, different legends and recipes. It's all the stories that people remember. And those three stories that you mentioned about Zig's first book, I remembered those instantly, and I had never given it a second thought or a thought before. But as soon as you
Right.
said it, they came right to my mind. And I think really, although there's a tremendous amount of content today, when you talk about your granddaughter, there's a tremendous amount of content out there. But what stories are people gravitating to? Where can they find that the real connections, the real soul connections, and the heartfelt connections? And the moral compass places. I can certainly go to church. There's no doubt about it. But is there any other platform? And then I heard that you're working on this new program called the Ziglar Touch. Can I ask you just to unpack that suitcase for us a little bit?
Absolutely. Zig told me from when I first started putting him on stage, he says, John, he says, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I'm sitting there going, oh, Zig, I don't write a book. But what happened here is I got a chance to get introduced to all of these mega minds. Okay. And the bottom line is I started to learn from them. And what I did for a living as a promoter, I sat in the wings on these stages and I would watch every presentation, whether it was Donnie Hudson through, it doesn't matter, all of them. And I would listen and I would watch the eyes in the front row of my auditorium. And I would see where they had them, where they lost them, and where they got them back. And so we would sit down with notes after every presentation, and I would sit down and talk with them, say, this is where you got them, this is where you lost them. We're going to change it around. We're going to change the sequence, and we're going to do this next time. Hand it to the two of them, and the next time we did it. The bottom line is, as a result, the way I knew how good a speaker was, it was really pretty simple for me. It was, how many books and tapes did your audience buy? Okay? And so that was a way for me to tell. And the bottom line is, all of these guys did incredibly well, and people learned so much. But stories is how people remember. Listen, this is not new. Nothing in this life is new. Jesus knew this when he walked on this earth. It's called parables. And what you do is you tell a story and you cement the story in with emotion. And the emotion is what keeps the story alive. And the way you keep it alive in your life is by sharing it. The way you have more is to give more. And the more you give, the more you get. It's a principle that we cannot deny. And so I watched these speakers and I watched them in their lives. And their lives, it wasn't just happening on that stage. It happened when they went home. They went back to California, or they went back to Oklahoma or Texas or wherever they were. And the bottom line is, you look at their lives and you think, wow, these guys are having impact past the things that we were doing. And I look at what I did, and I looked, and I'm sitting there and saying, you know what? Listen, it's been 50 years since I did Masters of Success. Okay. And so what happened now is I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my life and I'm saying, this information has got to be reintroduced. And so I came up with the Ziglar Touch. And what I did is I took all of that information, all of the stories, I categorized them, put them into buckets, and so that you can go into and you can find a specific topic that you're interested in, whether it's parenting, whether it's goal setting, it's building a business, it doesn't matter, personal development. What we found out in the seminar business is if I can build people, people build businesses. If I can teach you and help you to get to where you have integrity in everything you do, hear, and say, then your boss is going to benefit from that. And so what we have now is we've now gone full circle. Now it's to the point where attention spans are less than 10 seconds now. And it used to be 7 minutes. Okay, so there's a big difference. And so the only thing that has changed is not the message, it's the terminology and the technology that we use to deliver the message. But emotion and logic. Zig Ziglar became famous because of logic. He was very emotional, but he had solid ground foundation. He got it from his mama. And one of the things in this program is a story about Lila Ziglar. That's Zig's mom. And she raised 10 kids through the Depression without a husband, and she did it with a 5th grade education. And the question for you would be, how much would you bet on a little 5-foot-tall, stoop-shouldered lady from Yazoo City, Mississippi, and having impact on the world? The answer is that's not somebody you would bet on. But let me tell you something, you'd have been wrong, because we have impacted millions and millions and millions of people. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who is from India, and he remembers when Zig would go over to India and the impact that it had on cities, entire cities over in India. They have dirt floors, and they don't have anything, but they have attitudes, they have understanding, they have motivation, they have the same feelings that we all have. And now we're able to impact those people. And for me, it's why I'm here.
Well, that's terrific. I think when I was listening to you talk, I'm seeing the whole Ziglar Touch idea, because you talked about different categories, different stories, and different storytellers. And so for me, I was almost like in a library, except the library was a vitamin store, so I could get this one for this feeling and this one for that feeling. And that's basically, I think, what you're really creating. Is that right, John?
That's right. No, it's exactly right. But listen, we all have favorites. I'm going to tell you one of my favorites, and you probably never listened to him much. His name is Nito Cubain. Nito Cubain is an immigrant, came to America, and today he's president of High Point University. And I'm just telling you, the most smooth, one of the most profound, best speakers I ever heard, but he didn't do it the way everybody else did. He didn't do it on public platforms. He did it in the corporate world, and he became a giant. And I love Nito. Nito's great.
I actually remember some of his talks. I'm a bus driver, I think was the most favorite one I have of him. And
Oh,
yes, you're right.
yeah.
He's actually, I looked him up. He's from Jordan, I think. Um, so,
Yes. Yeah.
so what an accomplishment to have come to this country and then not only competed on platforms with the greats that you have it, but look where he has ascended today and
Well,
responsible for so much education.
here's the deal. Here's the rest of the story. Okay. He has paid for over 500 students to get their college degree. Okay. All of these guys, this is not something that they just talk about. This is who they are. This is the way they live. And that's what they teach. And that's what this is all about. That's what this program is all about. I don't care how much money you make. Money is not the issue. The issue is, what did you become as a result of what you did to earn that money, and how much are you paying back?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a lot of different depths about going from the superficial, look at me, isn't this gold and shiny, to here's
Yeah,
who I am and here's what I did and how can I help you?
right. No, absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
what did Zig say? I have to go back to think it was something like you can get anything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want.
That's right. And it's a principle, and it's absolutely true. And I forget which one it was, but they said nothing happens till somebody sells something. Well, that motivation, that action has started more wheels turning in this country than you can even imagine. I remember talking with presidents of today. They don't have them, like World Book encyclopedias, and where they would go door knocking and they would sell vacuum cleaners and they would sell all this. And I'm being in some of those meetings, and I listened to them, and boy, I'll tell you, some of them were really, really good speakers and good motivators. And today we don't have that. So now what do we have to do? We have to depend on technology to bring it to pass. So with the Ziglar Touch, what I have done is I made it so that if you are a manager and you are going to have to do meetings on a consistent basis, where are you going to get your information from? Here's what I contend. The Ziglar Touch is actually a faith-based platform. Not a single person on this program, or we ever have, is not born again Christian. Okay? So they're either Christians today or they're in heaven, one of the two. Okay? But the principles that they teach are solid, they are proven, they are biblical, they are repeatable and verifiable. And one of the things that I love about it is I get an opportunity to see the results. When I would MC these programs and I would go back to a city, 18 months after the first time we were there, I would have people come up to the stage to see me and, hey, Mr. Ziglar, let me tell you, when I came here this first time, you gave me a ticket. I came and then I started this business and I've got 18 of my people with me here today. The number of times it happened, you would never believe, but it happened over and over and over. Not because we're so smart, but it's because God put this inside of you and you just haven't learned how to unpack it. And that's what this is all about, giving us an opportunity to show you how to become the person that God created you to be in whatever field that is.
You just put a brand new twist on the word can opener. Can opener.
Well, and I have lived it, okay? When I came home from the hospital and a little bitty baby, underneath my crib was a Webcore loop recorder with Norman Vincent Peale, Power of Positive Thinking. Okay. And so I grew up with it. I had sleep teaching and I had all of this stuff. And so am I brainwashed? The answer is yes, I'm brainwashed. Okay. But what went in? What went in was good, powerful, positive, and impactful. And so listen, that's 40 years old before I ever lost anything.
Right.
Everybody comes to the table from a different position. And that was mine. And I was very fortunate and blessed in that, because being born into the family I was born in, I mean, how good can it get?
Yeah. And of course, the other thing too, John, I mean, not for nothing, you had to be sitting there, some nights while your dad and your uncle and some of the other friends and the big cheeses of the speaking industry were yapping away. How could you get into word edgewise?
Let me tell you something. I did an awful lot of listening. Okay.
There you go.
I think God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth on purpose.
There you go. Absolutely. You can't learn unless you listen.
Yeah. And there's a lot of wisdom that came from those guys and there's wisdom all over. Inside of the Ziglar Touch, I have got one section where I have little one-liner quotes. It's a daily insight. And what I do is one of them is, remember, the man on top of the hill didn't fall there. Okay. It's not accidental. It's hard work. It's climbing the ladder. It's going to work every single day and doing the best you can. That's how you get to the top of the hill. You don't come into the top of the hill from a helicopter. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And it's not getting to the top of the hill. It's what you become by getting to the top of the hill. And that's what everybody has to get a grasp of. It's becoming a little more difficult than it ever has been.
Well, because there's so much noise and it's polluting and diluting the real opportunity for what you just described was scripture-based wisdom and
right.
the real messages that we're meant to hear. You use the word brainwash earlier about yourself. I think you were continually baptized. I don't see any brainwash at all. I think there's no better shower than you could have possibly had than that, because there's so many other people that just never get the message. And you are surrounded by it. And now you want to create a platform to give people the opportunity that if they want to, they can just touch a button. And if they only got 10 seconds, you got something for them. If they got 15 minutes, you got something for them. And now sales managers and sales leaders, business entrepreneurs can use this to not only pump themselves up, give themselves another perspective, give themselves a breath of fresh air, just get out of their own way and overcome the fog in their life, but they can also possibly get some inspiration from that to be able to then turn around and regurgitate it to their own people in a way that seems like it's more authentic from them and gives them a superpower, a secret weapon. The Ziglar Touch could certainly be in their pocket with your new application and your new website.
Yep. We believe it. And I'm super excited.
Well, tell us a little bit. I mean, listen, you just said something I can't let you get away with. You said you're doing some very interesting things. Just give us a little bit of peek behind the curtain. What kind of things can we look forward to? Or at least tell us one little thing.
All right, here's one. My grandmother, his name was Lila Ziglar, and she died about 40 years ago, something like that. So what I did is with technology today, what I did is I took a picture of her when she was 14 years old. And then what I did is I took it, and it was one of those old pictures are generally brown. And so I took that brown, I made it into a black and white. Then we took the black and white and I made it into color. And then I aged her up to 40 years old. Then what I did is I took several pictures and then I did a 360 video of that picture, what she would look like. And now I have her telling the story.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So you got to understand technology today, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, but it scares the dickens out of me. Okay. Because I get on my TV and I listen to what is being said on TV and on, the news channels and stuff. And I've had some experience with some people who know and have been there, and a lot of what's there isn't the way it is, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us who've been around a few more minutes and certainly have learned that there is a certain amount of information deselection we have to make. And so what we have to do is throughout our day, just continue to say, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you to new information's coming in, because there's a lot of wrong information. There's a lot of misdirected information, and there's a lot of misguided information. So we have to be very careful. And as we learn from your seminar series that you produce all across America, you have to be very careful what you put in here, because what you put in here comes out. And you want to make sure that you're giving something to yourself that's going to give you a chance to grow instead of deteriorate and die. And you definitely for sure know that you're either constantly either living, growing, or you're dying. So you want to make sure you get the best nutrients you can by hearing good information. Like
you're right. Well, another part of the Ziglar Touch is your physical body. We got a gentleman named John Moore who did a book on toxins, and toxins in our world is huge, and health and wellness is a great big part of success. How do you be completely successful if you're unhealthy? It doesn't make any sense. And so you take and you put the spiritual stuff, the mental stuff, the physical stuff, and put it all together, and it makes a human being. That's what God created. And so, it's a whole person. You can't listen. If your little finger hurts, you are not comfortable. Okay. And so what happens now is we have to take that and we have to understand that your mental capacity, your mental abilities, and the way you think and the way you process things make a difference in where you're going to go. And what we're saying is there is a good, a powerful, positive way. And we would like to introduce you to that if you don't know it already. And if you do, we want to remind you about it.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. I look forward to it. I really do. And I'm going to just say to my audience here today, we'd like to get you back here and really dig into a little bit deeper. Anyone who's interested, we'll be putting some contact links in this program today, and also some of the other background information that John's been and his team have been so wonderful to supply us with. But I'd just like to say, John, in closing, if there's somebody out there today that, of course, listens to this today and goes, gosh, what can I possibly do? How would I be able to get in touch with John Ziglar or his Ziglar Touch? Is there already a domain or a website or a good link that you can guide us to?
And one of the things you got to understand too is I get new speakers and new programs, new stories every single week. And so this is not a program that is here today and it's going to be here the same tomorrow. It's going to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And audience members, people who are members of the Ziglar Touch, have stories themselves. And I encourage you to share, because the more you share, the more it'll mean to you and the more you'll grow. And so if you share them and then we can share them across our platform, then the bottom line is it impacts huge numbers of people.
Stories matter, and certainly the ones that you have in your history or your legacy will continue to light the way for millions in the future. It's the Ziglar Touch. It's been John Ziglar with us today, ladies and gentlemen, on the Real Mission Impossible show. Look forward to seeing more of John. Wish you all the best for Ziglar Touch. Thank you so much, sir.
You're mighty welcome. Thanks for having me.